How's everybody doing?
All right, Jeff, talk your shit, man. Let's do this. Get into it.
The best restaurant in New York City, Tatiana. You probably heard that. P. Wells from the New York Times named twice now Kwame's restaurant in Lincoln Center the best restaurant in New York City. How's that feel?
It feels good. What's up, Andrew? It feels good. We try not to get lost in the sauce.
Yeah.
And really focus on the guests that come in every single day. So I would be lying if I didn't say it didn't feel good, but it's not something we really like focus on, honestly.
Right.
Yeah.
Right. I would imagine it's the kind of thing you don't want to get carried away with or something. Yeah.
Yeah. Yeah. But it feels good to be recognized. I think, a restaurant that's serving Afro-Caribbean food, oxtails and things like that, for that to get recognition like that, for me, the goal is for it to be a beacon of light for other people to get opportunities. You can't say anymore, like investor-wise, that it's not going to work. They can point to my restaurant and be like, yes, it does work.
It works.
Yeah. So, hopefully that's what it does. That's what that number one does, more than just having an accolade.
Uh-huh. That's right. That's what we want to hear. That to me, it strikes me as the biggest breakthrough of all, because it's kind of like with the film Black Panther. It's like here we have like unquestionable success. So you can't really tell us that the box office is not going to be there anymore.
Absolutely.
Yeah. So part of why we're here is the theme of this event is play with your food. And it strikes me that in all the great spiritual traditions, as well as all the great restaurants, when you look at a plate of food, you see more than cooking, you see a story. You see a story being told, whether it's a Passover Seder, all different kinds of traditions. Prune Restaurant in the East Village, Gabrielle Hamilton telling a story. And I think that kind of template, that kind of approach is exceptionally true at Tatiana. So I want you to talk to us a little bit about storytelling through food, and what stories you're telling at Tatiana.
Storytelling through food is so important. Like we have a mantra: if a dish tells a story, it has a soul. You're not just cooking for perfect seasoning, which is a prerequisite of cooking. It's to really share something with someone, an experience, some nostalgia, or passing on traditions. So I think when you look at like the lexicon of food and the dishes that have like stood the test of time, they're really just snapshots in history.
Uh-huh.
That's what like really great dishes are. It's not like the ego of some chef like trying to put things together. It's really like, okay, these people were trading through here. This person invaded. This is what's growing here wildly, and this is what we're left with. And they put that together. So I think for us in our modern day and age, we have to continue to tell stories through food, and I think it resonates with people more. And that's just on the touching on the zeitgeist, really like the cultural pulse. But even in a business standpoint, if I tell my server at the restaurant, I created this dish because it reminds me of my mom growing up in the Bronx. She used to like grill chicken wings on the fire escape, and it was probably illegal, but we used to do it.
Yeah.
And this is why this dish makes sense to me. That waiter can then go and deliver that.
Yeah.
So I think it's easy to get everybody on board, and it just means so much more than just doing a dish that you just conceptualize out of thin air.
Right. Tell us about your childhood in the Bronx.
What do you want to know?
What were your favorite things to eat?
Chicken wings and pork fried rice from the Chinese spot. McDonald's for sure is up there with some of my favorite things to eat. Like a $5 plate of chicken from like a Cuchi Fritos spot, like either a Dominican or a Puerto Rican spot with rice and beans. Y'all know what I'm talking about. Y'all know what the fuck's going on in here, right? Anything from the bodega, like anything, any type of sandwich, chips, ices, slices of pizza. Yeah. And we try to like really mimic that at Tatiana.
So tell us about how that like becomes a dish, right? Because it takes this kind of leap of creativity to say, this is how I grew up. And it may not be the template usually associated with fine dining. But now I'm going to translate it into a dish on the plate. Give us, like, when does that happen?
Well, the way it happens is, it starts with the story and it starts with the soul of the dish. So, is this better? Okay, cool. Let's start from the top. No.
Yeah.
It starts with like the soul of the dish. It has to taste like the original. We're not trying to get so far away from that.
Oh,
and then it's like, how can we enhance that with the way that we see food? Adding texture, adding acidity, adding some sort of freshness to it. So like I said, one of my favorite things was ices growing up in the Bronx. It's like this cart pushed around, or, mango, cherry, rainbow, cocoa, they scrape it. It used to be 25 cents and now it's like $1.50. So I make my own now, but so I did it in the restaurant and I was like, I really want to do this because when we're eating things a lot as kids, we think everybody eats it.
Yeah.
And then when we take a step back, I remember I was talking to one of my sous chefs and she's from the Bronx. I was like, yo, what was your icy order? Because everybody has their different icy orders.
Yes.
People like rainbow. Mine was mango cherry. Where my mango cherry people at? All right. So and then I thought about it. I'm like, that's not a flavor profile that you get in places. Those two things mixed together. I was like, oh, it's perfect for Tatiana because it's something so familiar, but to the rest of the world, it's unfamiliar. So then I was like, all right, let's do mango cherry. Let's think about mango cherry. How can we play with mango and cherry? All right, let's do a cherry granita, a sour cherry granita. Then a mango sorbet, Then how about if we made like mango and cherry tuiles that were like red and orange, to kind of mimic when they scrape it and put it on there. And then it needed something creamy. So how about a pastry cream? So nothing is like conflicting. When you taste it, you're brought back to that story.
Yeah.
But then it matches kind of what we're doing in that space.
Yes. You're also telling a story about a place in Lincoln Center. And I think this is a very important part of understanding the Tatiana experience. Can you tell us about why that location is important to the story?
Yeah, it's extremely important. Anytime I open a restaurant, I always look at the land first and see what was there and see what speaks to me in order to like really create something with intention, not just like put something in a place just because or for profit. It always has to like mean something. So I saw that it used to be called Old San Juan Hill, which was an Afro-Caribbean community,
right?
That was pushed out to build Lincoln Center. So I was like, oh shit, like we would have been here anyway.
Right.
So this restaurant is that much more important to have in a place like that instead of putting another culture's cuisine there. I feel like I was bringing back some of the soul, something that our ancestors like worked so hard for in that space. So
it brings it full circle historically.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Absolutely.
So are there images? Are you guys seeing the goat patties in the picture here? No? We sent some slides. Let me know if you see the goat.
Hold on, let me see if this works. Yeah, there we go.
There we go. I didn't know you were doing this slide. Okay.
I didn't know either.
So this is good. Who has eaten this? All right. Some lucky folks.
3 people. Yeah.
One of my dreams is and it's hard to get a seat, but is to come into Tatiana by myself, order a martini, and get 3 orders of this for myself.
Yeah.
I don't want to share with my kids. I loved it so much. I just want to have it to myself. And it's exceptionally delicious. Tell us how that was made. What inspired it?
So these are curried goat patties with mango chutney and green seasoning aioli. And I've always had patties at my restaurants, whether it's Kith and Kin, we had, beef patties or mushroom patties. So I wanted to do something a little bit different, but it was also inspired by this particular patty. I went to Devon House in Kingston, and they had curried goat patties. And I was like, oh shit, these are fucking awesome. Like, I should do curried goat patties.
Was that like a research trip to
No, I was there like filming something.
Oh, I see.
Yeah.
And you just happened upon it.
Yeah.
Oh, wow.
Yeah. And then another time I was in Montego Bay and I ordered curried goat and they put mango chutney on top of it.
Oh, wow.
So it was just, this is how we eat our food. I was telling you backstage that, a food writer was like, how do you envision these amazing dishes? Like, you're such a genius. I was like, this is just what I grew up eating. You know, this is the first time you all are having it.
Right.
But to a lot of people, this is very familiar cuisine.
Yeah.
You know, so
Yes. Let's go to the next slide. You're all going to be very hungry after this. Oh, okay. So these are the egusi dumplings.
yes.
Talk to us about what goes into that for people who don't know about egusi, etc.
Yeah, so I wanted to put a goosey soup on the menu. I think it's important. I think that's how you like change people's perceptions of things, is to continue to put it in their face, but maybe do it in a way that is easier to digest than having to explain a whole thing. Like, this is what fufu is. This is what a goosey soup is. These are melon seeds.
Does everyone know what egusi is? Okay. A few. Okay, so the
goosey,
context
it's
is
a melon
important.
seed.
Melon seed, yeah.
Yeah, that we use in West Africa to like thicken our soups and stews. It's normally like toasted and ground up. So I thought about putting it in a dumpling because you have that texture of fufu almost. And then you have red stew at the bottom, which is like a Nigerian mother sauce. So it's like a taste of Nigeria in one bite.
Uh-huh.
Yeah.
So if you haven't, you should all read Notes from a Young Black Chef, which is Kwame's incredible memoir. And he talks about his time in Nigeria as a child. Can you, because that's part of it, is there's a personal story, the personal connection through this dish. Can you tell us about that?
Yeah, my mom told me I was going on a 2-week vacation to Nigeria, and she lied to me. It was not a 2-week vacation at all. She left me there for 2 years. Yeah, in order to learn respect. But I learned respect, as well as a couple, you know, like really impactful lessons that affected my career. Like, to really appreciate what we have here in America. Things that we take for granted, like running water and electricity, conditioned air, you know, and opportunities as well. So I learned a lot about food too. You know, if we wanted a 10, piece chicken bucket, we had to raise 5 chickens, and that took 6 months.
Yeah.
So it really taught me to appreciate our food and not to take a lot for granted.
Do you
And
remember?
to not be disrespectful ever again.
You were like 10 years old when you went?
Yeah.
Yeah. So what do you remember about your first encounters with Nigerian cuisine at 10, 11?
Well, I ate a lot of it growing up in the States, but when I was out there, it was like it was, a couple times a month in the States, but it was like every day. Obviously, in Nigeria, it's just food to them. So
Of course.
it was, onion stew in the morning, or, okra soup and things like that I wasn't super, super familiar with. So I had to get really used to it.
Mm-hmm.
But yeah, it was great though.
Yeah. So we see the Caribbean presence on the menu. We see the Nigerian influence on the menu. Now we have my personal favorite, the oxtails. Tell us about the oxtails dish.
Yeah, because oxtails and rice and peas. Yeah, you can clap for that if you want. It's great.
This dish, I wrote about it at Esquire. It takes like 4 days to make this dish.
Yeah,
It's almost a dish about time. It takes so much focus and duration.
yeah. We it still at the end of the day tastes like just a really good bowl of oxtails and rice and peas. But we make like a heavily reinforced like chicken foot roasted chicken stock that we braise the oxtails in. We make our own jerk paste, our curry powder, and we marinate it for 2 days, and then braise it, and then take all the liquid and strain it out and reduce that so it glazes them like really, really beautifully. So yeah, it's an arduous process, but at the end of the day, it's worth it. But I'd like to note that we don't explain that. It's like we just like, here's some oxtails and rice and peas.
Sure.
If you have questions, we can inform you on it. But it should just taste like a really fucking great plate of oxtails and rice and peas. And if you miss that, then the 4 days are worth nothing.
Yeah. What does that time give to the dish?
Lots of labor hours in the bottom line. But it gives it time to really develop the flavors. So
Yes.
the seasoning goes all the way down to the bone. It kind of falls off the bone when you just like flex at it a little bit. So it's it comes across at the finish line.
I if you notice in the picture, it's a good picture. I think that's Evan Sung doing the photography. We love Evan. there's this sticky, beautiful sauce that comes at the bottom of the pan that's with the oxtails. And I mean, the next morning after I ate at Tatiana, I was like, oh yeah, there it is. Still, it just stays with you. The flavor is sort of like long lasting.
Lots of flavor in there.
Okay, now let's go to dessert. We got 3 desserts here, but what I wanted to see if we could focus on is the Bodega Special. So tell us about that one.
Yeah, the Bodega Special is inspired by, my mom saying you have $1 for the day.
Uh-huh.
And we would go to the bodega and try to like mix and match the perfect meal. So it was always for me a cosmic brownie and powdered donuts. And then the rest went to like Sour Patch Kids or sunflower seeds or something like that. So I just focus on the cosmic brownie. We make it from scratch, and then we make powdered donut ice cream and then form it back into the shape of a powdered donut so it looks like that when you eat it. And it's just a really fun, nostalgic dessert.
Who has had powdered donuts before? Everyone, right? I mean, that was a remarkable thing to me when I ate that, and I was like, oh my God. That was a childhood memory for me as well. Those store-bought powdered donuts.
They're fire. They're really good.
So how often do you have customers who taste these dishes and the rest of the menu, which is extraordinary, and connect in a personal way, in the same way, like they connect with that autobiography? Like, do you say people like, this is my experience too?
Yeah, a lot. Every single night, there are people that sometimes are emotional because, I don't know, like when you come from where I came from and then to like have a place where it's at.
Yes.
Like, and it's tangible. You can see them and touch them.
Yes.
It's a beautiful thing. And it's also what kind of reminds me like where I came from. So I always make it a point to go out and talk to people, especially if they're from the Bronx or New York City as a whole. Mm-hmm. It's important for me.
Yeah. Representation through these dishes. So let's also just quickly about the creative process. Is there a place where this tends to happen, that you dream up these dishes? I know music's really important to you. Is there a certain soundtrack you tend to be playing when you're creating something?
No, it could happen at any point in time. Like I could be having a full conversation like this, and
right now you're just not even listening.
Thinking about this. Yeah, I have a short attention span for it. But it can happen I could be driving, I could be in the shower, I could be sleeping and dreaming of putting together dishes.
Cool.
Or I could be traveling or eating other people's cuisine and be inspired. I think that's the beauty of food. You can really like cross an ocean on a plate or really get to know somebody by eating their cuisine.
Yes.
So yeah, it can come at all times.
Do you then go write it down or start to cook it or something like that?
No, I'll write it down and then start to ideate on it. And then I'll jump in the lab and put it together.
It's so interesting. It really is similar to like songwriting or writing a short story or something like that.
Yeah, definitely. And it develops over time, and you got to give it some grace. I remember when I was a young chef, if I had an idea and then I went in the kitchen and it didn't work out, I'd be like, oh, God, I'm a horrible chef. I don't know how to do anything right. But it's like you got to get that out and let it develop. Just like a song, like you may have to go in and mix and master it afterwards. Like it's not going to be perfect on the first try.
Just keep workshopping it.
Exactly.
Yeah. You're also developing sparkling water, did I hear?
Yeah.
So how do you get creative with sparkling water?
Well, the flavors are global.